Welcome to Basket Case Builds. Today we're going to be doing some work on a 4JX1 Isuzu engine, 3 litre. Commonly found in Troopers, also in Australia here it's called a Jackaroo. The O-rings you see before you are for the injector tube, injector and oil rail resealing that we need to do. I have a oil leak internally in the rail somewhere. If you let the vehicle sit for too long, it won't start again. I used inferior O-rings before, as these took 90 days to get, and I needed the vehicle running. So we're going to change all them out, so let's get into it. There will be a link in the description below as to where I get these from. In Australia, I had a hard time. Isuzu didn't know, or didn't want to know about it. I don't know really. They come from Dubai. It took, like I said, 90 days to get it. I've got every O-ring you can considerably reseal on it, from the end caps on the oil rail to the drain tube. So here we go. I'm following this procedure on replacing the injector, or the faulty injector seals. Goes through the whole procedure. You can see there, we'll get down to this page here. That's the main problem that you have, is the injector sleeve O-rings fail, and there's fuel running between the two O-rings, and there's coolant sitting under the O-ring. And I believe what happens is the injector tube overheats when the washers fail on the injector, and you get exhaust gases, combustion gases coming up in and frying that O-ring, and then they mix. They end up with, when it's cold, you'd end up with probably fuel going into the coolant, and then when you get up to temperature, coolant back into the fuel. And I've had it before. When it first happened, I had drained my fuel tank, and for the first 10 seconds it was green, and my fuel filter had coolant in it, and I also had to replace all my radiator and heater hoses due to diesel in the cooling system, and that what happens then is it perishes all the rubber. Turbo is water cooled, so I had to replace all those hoses as well. Alright, first things first, intake tube from the air filter through the turbo is coming off. Intercooler is already off. If you've seen the previous video, I was chasing coolant leaks. Intercooler's only got 4 bolts, 2 clamps. Take one bracket off this side. The rocket cover comes off. Before it comes off, this steel tube, that's your oil supply line, has to come out through the side of the rocket cover. Oil pipe, 27mm, both ends, there and down below. Okay, that was very much a battle. There's the tube. What happened was, the reason I had to use Stilson's on here, which it's marked it up, is this wasn't undoing from the inner tube. It was spinning as a unit and trying to wind the adapter that goes onto the rail out with it. So I was trying to spin that whole pipe. I grabbed it there and managed to loosen it. I'll just see if I can source myself another one. I don't trust it. It's an O-ring face. But anyway, you got to do what you got to do. Let's carry on. Okay, you can see what I meant by that adapter tube poking out. Just there, that's all thread. It wound out with the tube, the external tube. So, and that gave me a bit of grief getting the rocket cover off, because you have to pivot the rocket cover this way. And it was hitting on turbo tube, coolant tube, so I had to slightly bend it out of the way. We got there. Let me put it in another position so you can get a better look. You can see there the tube has wound its way out when I was trying to undo the whole lot. Alright, we're going to remove the 4 electrical connectors, 1 to each injector. Then we're going to remove the 2 sender connections, also the oil temp and oil pressure for the rail. And then also we're going to remove the 2 bolts that hold the loom to the cylinder head, and the loom can be moved off to the side. We're then going to unbolt and remove the bolts out of the rail itself that run down through the top, followed by loosening off all the hex-headed 6mm bolts that hold the injector to the rail, as you see there, just loosening them off, then followed by removing the H-clamp nuts. The H-clamp nuts are on top there, you see there, and I've removed the clamp. Then you come in, once all the rail bolts have been removed, you come in with the lever bar and slowly lever it out as one unit with all injectors intact. Alright, we've got the injectors out in one piece. They're just over the back there, stored away for now. We'll have a closer look at them later. I'll work on draining the coolant now and checking out what these injector sleeves are going to look like as we extract them. You need a puller. I have a special puller for it. It's very homemade, but works very well. Alright, here's a sleeve from the old cylinder head before I replaced this cylinder head. And here's a puller, and I'm going to use the puller slides down into the cylinder head, into the sleeve, like such. They're on a spring, those tabs. Locks in. It's in that position in the engine. They rest on the camshafts. You wind this nut down, boom, it pops out. And you get a screwdriver and you pop those in, and then you can get your sleeve out. Give an example of what it's like to pull one out without time lapse. You'll wind this thread back. These, like I said, are spring loaded, so they don't fall in, but you push them in until they line up with the fuel delivery holes in the injector sleeve. And you heard it click. Give it a quick wiggle and a pull so both the tangs are in the hole in position. Line it up, and as you can hear below me, if you can hear it, the coolant that's left of it is dribbling out. You cannot have coolant in this engine when you do this. Pull the injectors out, no worries. Pull the sleeve out, you'll wear coolant and your cylinder will fill up with coolant. These are normally probably not as easy as this to come out. First time I did them, they were quite solid. These have only done 20,000 kilometers. I wanted to get this back to OEM specs, so I didn't want to have inferior to market O-rings in it. And there you have it. It's the two O-rings. One there, one there. We'll put OEMs back on, clean it up, and reassemble. We've got our 4 injector sleeves. We're going to put genuine OEM O-rings back on them. I just thought, I got a heap of O-rings as I showed you at the start of the video. I generally just scribble down on what each one is for, because they can get mixed up. Obviously on these they've got the bigger O-ring at the top due to the diameter difference from the top to the bottom of the sleeve. I'm over by the parts washer. We're going to clean up a sleeve. The thing that happens with these things is on the very ends, if you'll focus for me, they carbon up internally, and a bit on the outside. I've already wire brushed this part. We need to get rid of that carbon, and also the taper down the bottom where the injector fits via the copper washer. We need to make sure that's clean. I do that with a basic rinse. From there I get Scotch Brite and run through the middle of it. Alright, let's fit these O-rings. You've got the two different sizes. Obviously the smaller one at the bottom, the larger one to the top. You can see the size difference there. Top, bottom. I bring them up from underneath. Do the top one first. Obviously you can tell it's not going to fit when you've got a big gap like that in the O-ring. So it's definitely the top one. What I do with these, people don't sort of do this, they just roll them in there and just slap them in, but to me they're still twisted. You need to get like a fine pick. I pinch the O-ring up a little so you get a small gap. Go underneath the O-ring without damaging it, and run around like that, and it unwinds any dramas. And you can actually spin it as well. Also a good trick for doing cylinder sleeve O-rings on diesel engines that are O-ringed. And this is the bottom one. You can roll it up, it's no drama. Same thing, just squeeze it up. Over the edge of it. Done. I use a lubricant. You can barely read it anymore. It's a valve and O-ring lubricant. It's just like a clear petroleum jelly type stuff, I suppose. Okay, all the O-rings are on. They're lubed up with that valve and O-ring grease. So we'll now install. Now to install these, you can do it as the procedure shows with another older injector sleeve if you have one. You actually, if it's a good injector sleeve, you can get an old one, sit it on top, and you use this as a drift to install the sleeve. But I don't have any of those. I do, but I'm not going to use them because that's just wasteful over another good set that I don't want to damage. So I'm just using this. It's a 16mm piece of round dowel, just from Bunnings, local hardware store. This actually fits just nice, and it's resting just there on the inside. I'll just cut it to length so I have enough poking out. I can hit it in with a hammer. You're not going to damage anything. A little bit of wood falls out and falls down the hole into the cylinder. It's not the end of the world. And yeah, so we'll go and clean the head up where these seal in the head, and let's install them. Let's clean these holes out. I'm just using a piece of that same dowel and a rag. You'll have to excuse the light if it reflects back in you, but I'm getting old and blind and I need to put this down here. That's it. Clean out any rubbish. Alright, we're going to lubricate the cylinder head sleeve holes. Same grease, that rubber O-ring grease, and you can just reach in there enough. You only really need to lubricate the top half. As the O-ring slides down, it'll drag the lube with it. I'll just do the front one, and same thing. This is exactly the same piece of dowel I use for cleaning out the holes. Here's the first sleeve. Now you need to have these holes lined up straight down the engine. So if I'm looking at the engine this way at 12 and 6 o'clock, the holes have to be that way. If you put it in that way, where the holes are at 3 and 9 o'clock, you'll block the fuel from going through. The fuel needs to transfer through that direction through the drillings in the head all the way out to the back. The fuel comes in just under this manifold in the side of the head, all the way through the drillings in the middle of the head and out the back to tank. So you need to have those at 12 o'clock as I'm looking this way, and 6 o'clock. It doesn't matter which way, that way or that way, but as long as it's that orientation. If you've got genuine ones, they've got a notch there and there in the 12 and 6 o'clock position. It's not genuine. So all you do is put your sleeve in. Like I said, you can sit it in there and then have a look at your holes. So as I'm looking at it now, the holes are 12 and 6. They run directly in the engine. And you think I need to go this way a little. If they're dropped in there, you can still move them around. Let me bring you in for a closer look. As you can see, the sleeve is in there. You can see that drilling hole there in the sleeve. It's actually running straight down the engine. I'll bring you the other side. That's the 6 o'clock from where I'm standing. That's the 12. It runs straight down the engine. That's how you have to have all 4 of the sleeves. Okay, you've got to have the sleeve installed at 15mm inserted, 15mm down. So you've got to measure it from the top of the head to where the sleeve actually finishes up, the top of the sleeve, because they don't fit flush on top. What you saw before in the last shot was just that sitting on the first O-ring before it gets installed. So you just grab this and this, put it in here. And that has now technically installed. And we take a measurement. .886. Yeah. Anyway, close enough. We're home. You won't get any more out of it. I'll just remeasure it just in case. Zero it. Yeah, so 14.87, 14.9, close enough. Let's put in the other 3. Then we're right and we're onto the rail. The rail we're doing a full reseal on. Okay, we're going to move on to the resealing of the oil rail. I had to make a tool up to undo these end caps. They've got this, how would you say, 6-point special tool needed. I ended up making one out of a basic nut. I think it measures, let me get the ruler. .35 across the flat. I think it's a 20mm threaded internal, something to that effect. That turned into this horrible thing. All I did, you can see from here, is I left the corners on and I scalloped the inners with an angle grinder, as you can tell. Does the job, because it actually, I've already pulled it apart, off camera because I had no idea if this would work, and it works good because these caps are very tight. You can see it's sort of marked it a little, but really it's better than using Stilsons. I've heard people using Stilsons on the edge, and this is what it looks like when they're on there. You've got sort of no way of biting it unless you put it in the vise. All I ended up doing was putting it down there on a piece of wood when this cap was still screwed on it tight. I've got another piece of wood on top, give it a whack with the hammer, and then installed that into there. And I use I think it's a 1 3/8 socket, which is not the right socket. It'd be metric obviously for that. That's all I've got. 1 3/8. I loaded it with a handful of washers, 5/8 washers. Now it sits above proud, so when you go to put it on, you've got that effect. The O-rings are on the caps, and we're going to reseal the whole thing. As I said before, the 2 sensors, and also where your oil rail goes in and your drain plug. We've got all the sensors, drain plug and 1 end cap done up. I'll just show you how this tool works. If you don't like it, yeah, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? It's the way I'm doing it. That's all I've got. I'll just give it a couple of rat-a-tat-tats on the end cap and that's it. It's a 3/4 gun, so it's not exactly weak and you don't want to overdo it. So basically I take the socket off the gun, have everything loaded up, put it on. If you don't do it right, you end up with all the washers on the floor like I have done in the past. As you can see, it's loose, hand tight, gun going the right way. Sort of half straddle it and hang on to it. And give it a couple of whacks. That's it. We're done. Said sensors, drain plug. I've still got the adapter to screw in here, but we'll do that in a minute. One thing I forgot to show you is that once the end cap is on, you actually have what they call a vibration dampener that screws into the end. That is a rubber mount that insulates or isolates the bolt and the body of the injector rail, and that screws into the end cap. That acts as a vibration dampener. Apparently, I presume that's what it is. The book refers to it as that. I'm just going to put a little bit of Loctite on the thread because that's what was on it when I pulled it out. Don't know the torque, the book doesn't tell me the torque. Standard torque's around 25 Newton meters when we'll nip it up there. Let's use, you see people use Loctite in your shutter sometimes. they bath it, they absolutely drown it. I'm not one for drowning a product in Loctite. This is 242, the blue stuff's, they call it I think it's a mid-strength, but it can get nasty if you put too much on, that's for sure. That's it, as far as I'm concerned. And then I'll rub it into the threads. That's it. Just got a nice blue thin film. You can smell Loctite, it's definitely got a scent of its own. You can when you undo it, you can definitely smell it. I would say this has never been apart before, so okay, might lay it down. Biggest thing is not to break off, snap any sensors, because they're worth a pretty penny. Very much so. Do the other end. When the stuff bites in, the only way, if you've got a bolt stuck, if you can heat it, if it's in an area that you can heat, it will melt. Other than that, you're pretty much screwed if you can't get heat into it and you've got a rounded off bolt or whatnot. There they are. Alright, we've got our injectors. We need to change the copper washer and also the O-ring. Also give them a clean around the nozzle itself. We'll have to probably get most of that carbon you can see there off before that copper washer will come out. Normally just scratch it back. I try and keep away from the nozzle itself. I just want to go here and scratch this off. This hasn't been in here that long, these injectors, so they're not too bad. When I took them out the first time, they were very crusty. You get the idea. We'll clean them up. These have been compressed pretty tight, so they will, they battle a bit to come off, but we'll get there. The way I normally get the washer off is I grab a set of mouldy grips. You set these so you just get enough bite only on the washer. And give it a spin if you can. There we go. Spin it and pull it off, and there it is. It's a tapered washer. Pop the O-ring off and clean them up. Let's do the rest. Also, there is an O-ring that sits here. That's your inlet for your oil to actuate the injector. We're going to put some new washers and O-rings on, and then we'll bolt it to the rail with new O-rings as well, and yeah, let's do it. Okay, we've got our O-rings on, lubricated. They say in the procedure to put these down the hole and then drop them in, but I sort of don't, I don't know. I prefer to just stick them with a little bit of lube, and they're stuck on there, they don't fall off. Anyway, you can comment as to how I should or shouldn't do it, but that's okay. I'm doing it this way. I've done it before successfully, even with eBay O-rings. So alright, we're going to loosely fit each injector to the rail and use OEM O-rings, if I can find them. These fellas, these are a square cut O-ring. If you buy the eBay ones, or aftermarket ones, they turn out round. The genuine jobs are, they are definitely a square cut. If you have a look at what I took out, round, square. You can see there, it sits nice and proud. With O-rings, you think the prouder the better. No, you can actually blow an O-ring quicker if it's too big than what you can if it's too small. Basically, that's a nice height there. Little Allen key bolt either side. If I don't drop it, a little bit of lube in the O-ring, or in this case, I'm just going to put it on the mounting surface. Put it on there. I'm going to put our rail in. We want to make sure, obviously, that the holes are clean right across the top. No dirt present. We'll grab the rail, put it in. Looking good, looking good. Nice, nice, nice. I have to excuse the poor lighting, but you'll get the idea how this works. These are all loose. The washer has to be tapered towards the nozzle end, not the injector end. If you put it in upside down, you'll be in a world of pain. It won't work. You'll be fighting against the reverse taper down in the sleeve. Alright, O-rings are on. We're all on there, finger tight. And away we go. Here we go. We've got these two as guides. That's still loose, has to be tightened up once I torque these injectors, rail and hold on bolts in. Alright, we've got our injector rail, injector H clamps and injector two oil rail bolts all fitted up loosely. We follow the procedure. It says have to put the H clamps and tighten nut temporarily. So that's those two. Tighten injector to oil rail bolts to the specified spec of 6.5 Newton meters. So here we go. Injector to oil rail bolts, 6.5 Newton meters. Tighten the H-clamp nuts to the specified torque to seat the injectors at 30 Newton meters. Loosen the injector H clamps and retighten to 25 Newton meters. Torque the rail bolts to 20 Newton meters. guess I'll start in the middle and work opposites. High pressure oil pipe adapter needs to be tightened to 80 Newton meters. If you've taken the cam bolts out of the caps where the harness comes up, the harness bolts onto those 2 points on the cap. It's 22 Newton meters. Plug in the rail first. I think the two sensors, the temp and the oil pressure. You can do a mod on these, which I've done, but the clips have already failed again, so I have to zip tie some of these on. You cut and you buy new ends and you solder them in and heat shrink them, and it stops the oil tracking down the loom, and the oil ends up coming through your wire internally and into there. As you can see, there's oil in there now at the moment. This one's been done, but it still leaches oil. Not as bad as it used to. I'll get some zip ties and zip tie them in. Okay, it says to put 300 ml of oil into the rail, and if you look down here, I've hooked up my pipe back to front and it's sitting up in the air, and I'm going to use a syringe and induce 300 ml, hopefully 300 ml anyway. This might take a bit, so it might be time lapsed. We've filled our rail up, and you can probably see, I don't know if you can, the light's pretty terrible here, sorry, but it's about midnight here at the moment. I've had to zip tie 1, 2, 3 of the connectors on due to the fact that the little clip that holds them in place broke, but it's alright, I'll sort that out. I need the vehicle desperately, so we're going to put it back together like that for now. I'll order in some new ends, or maybe a complete harness. Yeah, we'll see how we go. We'll clean up the rocker cover. Sorry, not the rocker cover, the head where the rocker cover will sit. Clean the old silicone off. You need to put silicone places around here where there's silicone at the moment. We'll clean that, but there and there, there's 2 half moon grommets at the back you need to, and a grommet here where the loom comes out. Use like an ultra grey. That's what I use. It seems to work pretty well. Alright, let's clean it up. Alright, we're good to sew it all up. Rocket cover on, sound suppression, intercooler, all that other jargon. You don't really need to see it, but let's time lapse. I've got new coolant in, new oil. I changed both oil filters, one for the fuel system and the other one for the engine lubrication, and also new fuel filter. So batteries are hooked up. This is probably going to take a few cranks, but see how we go. There it is. See how it goes over the next few weeks. Whether it's excessive coolant use or it's swapping coolant and fuel between each other. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching Basket Case Builds. The Jackaroo ran fine after the O-ring change. We're getting no diesel in our coolant and vice versa. I've since sold the Jackaroo. We've now moved to a smaller vehicle. But once again, thanks for watching, and don't forget to comment, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Alright, if you've taken a cam bolt cap off, like I have, for this lead. Alright, if you've taken a cam bolt out of one of the caps to if you've taken the cam bolt caps, there's two of them. Okay, if you've taken the cam bolt, far out.